Hi there, American viewers. It's Chris Nichols here with a quick public service announcement for you. We are in this video going to be pronouncing this letter quite a lot today as Z, and I understand that this can be both physically and emotionally traumatizing for you, even though the rest of the entirety of the English-speaking world says it Z. So, in order to make you feel included and not left out, we are going to have subtitles, much like a foreign film, at the bottom of the video so that you can all follow along. Thanks so much, and let's get into our Z6 II review. Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. Chris Nichols here. Today we're doing a full review on the Nikon Z6 version 2. Now, what's really changed on the Z6 version 2? I mean, at the heart of this, it seems like a fairly small thing. Nikon simply added a second X-Speed 6 processor, and that's generating a lot of cynicism about, well, we got the same sensor, we got the same body, the same handling. What really gives? Like, what is this really going to do to change my life? Hopefully by the end of the review, we'll have explained that a little bit better for you. We're going to shoot around southern Calgary here out in the countryside and just really see, is that going to make a big difference? Is it worthwhile? We're going to answer that question for you. Now, brand new feature on the Z6 II, which a lot of people will find invaluable. We've got dual card slots. Now, in the original Z6, you had CF Express, which is a very fast card option, although it is expensive, and sometimes it's hard to find accessories and peripherals to then support that. So now we have an SD card slot. It's UHS 2. This does give us all the usual benefits like overflow or double backup if we want to have it. Now, one of the main improvements on the Z6 II is a much bigger buffer over its predecessor. We're getting 3.5 times according to Nikon. I mean, you roughly get 40 shots of RAW on the Z6 before the buffer filled. I did a test here with the CF Express card. I got 14-bit lossless compressed, high-speed burst, 133 shots before it filled. And then it only took about 8 seconds or so, I was able to do another burst again. So the buffer increase is real. That's not one of the nice benefits of having the new dual processor. But if you are mirroring shots between the SD card and the CF Express, it is going to slow things way down. So do keep that in mind. Now, we have the exact same sensor that we found in the Nikon Z6. It's certainly a solid performer. Low light performance is exactly the same as well. However, there is one thing that we did notice. The original Z6 had an issue with banding showing up, especially when you really push dark shadows. And that seems to be gone now on the Z6 II. And that really is nice because it does effectively allow you to get more dynamic range, so to speak, without the image quality loss the Z6 had. Okay, so the Z6 II still just has a vertical tilting screen. I know a lot of people actually prefer that though. I do like that when I tilt this out, unlike a lot of other cameras on the market, it disables the EVF, so it's not blacking out on me or trying to switch back and forth without me having to even set a button or hit anything. You know, Jordan and I have always loved the handling on the Z cameras. They're rugged, they're well sealed, they feel good, nice big grips, everything feels high quality, the menus are easy to use. Nothing's changed on the Z6 II. We still have the same touchscreen menu interface, or I can use a control pad on the bottom, or I can customize my dials to navigate the menus. And my only real complaint about that is we still have the same issue with the autofocus joystick where, although it's probably one of the nicest joysticks of any camera on the market, I still can't use this to manipulate the menus, and I wish I could, because I like having the camera up to my eye in the EVF, hit the menu button, and be able to manipulate that, and that's naturally where my thumb falls, but I've got to break my grip and drop it down to the control pad if I want to do it that way. I wish they'd change that. I guess you're gonna have to get good at customizing the dials to do that and get used to the way that works. Now, the displays have stayed the same as well from the Z6. I've got the 3.69 million dot EVF and just over 2 million dot back panel. They're very nice to use. However, apparently dual processors cannot fix the fact that we still have 60 frames per second max refresh rate on the EVF. And that seems strange to me because we know this panel is capable of more. It'd be nice to see something higher, especially when you consider that having the bigger buffer now and having things like animal detect autofocus on this camera make this an ideal option for sports and wildlife shooting. I wish I could see a faster frame rate there. Now, blackout time in the screen has been minimized from the Z6. That is a nice benefit. So, animal eye detect doesn't work on black cows with black eyes, heavily backlit by the sun. disappointing. Nikon Z autofocus. I mean, it has improved, but there's always been some issues that we'd like to see change. I mean, I've always preferred the way Nikon did their 3D tracking on their SLRs. I choose a specific 3D tracking mode, I get a box, I put that box on what I want, I hit the AF on button or shutter, and it starts tracking, and I like that. Here, I still have to do the hit the OK button to engage the tracking box or a custom button that I've set, and then start tracking on something. You get used to it, but it is still one extra step, and they have not changed that. Now, another issue we had with the Z6 and Z7 was a very clunky interface to engage face detect or animal detect, which are added with firmware updates. You had to do it through auto area mode. It was clunky, it was slow, and you'd have to go in the menu to turn it on and off. So we do have a much better system here now. So first off, through the I button, I can do that, face detect, animal detect, or no face and eye detect, simply by going in the I menu, choosing that option, and then choosing the appropriate auto area mode. But they've also added a second autofocus mode. It's called wide area mode, and in this mode I now get a big box. It's a red box. I do wish we could customize the size of that. Hopefully that'll be added later, but it is handy that I can now limit the face detect or eye detect in that boxed area. Now this is great if I've got multiple people, but I specifically only want one person's face or eyes to be detected. Put the box on them and it will limit itself to that area. Whereas in the past it would detect faces and I'd have to then use the joystick or touchscreen to move back and forth till I got the one that I wanted in focus. It's also a great way to have focus on someone's face and then choose to focus on a different thing and eliminate that. So for example, if I had somebody holding a camera, I could put the box low on the camera, and now that's not on the person's face, it's not going to even try to go to their eyes, and it will actually focus on the camera. Previously, I'd have to go into the menu, turn eye detect off, and then go back out and do that again. Now the third issue that we had was with the actual eye detect accuracy itself. It was really good on the older cameras with focusing right on the eyelashes. Now the camera focuses on the eyes properly, and that's a huge improvement, especially now that we have a lot of these new wide aperture lenses coming out, like the 50mm 1.2. This is going to be very critical. So overall, it's nice to see Nikon listening to people, making the interface easier and more intuitive and faster to use. The tracking, I still wish had a better interface, and the actual quality of the tracking pretty much seems the same as it was before, but the other changes to be able to quickly set what you want and where you want the camera to focus are welcome. Now the Z6 II, just like the Z7 II and the Z5, use the brand new ENEL15C battery. The best capacity we've seen out of any of the ENEL15s, but it is nice that in a pinch, if you've got the old batteries lying around, you can still power these cameras, albeit at, of course, reduced amounts of battery life. Now, the ENEL15C does give us nice advantages in this camera. First off, these can charge the battery through the USB-C port, but also now with the Z6 II, I can put a USB charger in here, PD rated, and actually power the camera so that if I need to use it indefinitely or tethered in the studio or something like that, I just don't even have to worry about battery life at all.
Hey everyone, it's Jordan and Ivy, who's home today to talk about the video recording on the Nikon Z6 II. And it's kind of tough to do because the major upgrade is the 4K 60 recording, but it's not available yet. It's coming in a firmware update, so we'll be looking at that a little bit later. But I'm guessing it's going to be exactly the same kind of quality as what we're seeing with other cameras that I think share this sensor. So there will be a Super 35 or APS-C crop when you're recording 4K 60, but it'll be really nice to have the option. The other major improvement they've done is one I've been asking for a long time. They are giving us the option to reverse the manual focus direction. So if you've been using video lenses your whole life, you can now use these Nikon Z series lenses and you'll be able to manually focus properly. So you're doing a really good job of being quiet, but of course the neighbors have now started cleaning their furnace, so you'll have to bear with the audio a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. You're doing great. Now, one other thing they've carried over from the Z6 is the ability to record ProRes RAW to an Atomos Ninja 5. It is a paid firmware update, and we've already done a video about the quality of that. But one thing I didn't look at last time was what the quality would be like using Super 35. Now, I did find it is very similar at low ISO. There's no advantage in terms of moire and aliasing, but at high ISO, the full frame image is much nicer. So there's really no advantage to using the Super 35 ProRes RAW recording on this. But if you're looking for a little more flexibility with your files, it's great to have the option. All right, it's a full frame mirrorless camera capable of recording good video, so we got to talk about overheating with this. Now, one thing Nikon hasn't changed is thank you so much. There is still a 30-minute record cutoff when you're using the camera, so you do have to start and stop recording for longer takes, or you can bypass that with an external recorder. However, doing continuous clips, I was able to record for an hour and 43 minutes before, not the camera overheated, it didn't even give me a warning, but until the battery died. Now that was only room temperature because it's snowing in Canada right now, but in controlled situations, I don't think overheating is going to be a real problem. But in general, the Z6 II is just a really full-featured video package. It doesn't have a headline feature that you can't get anywhere else, but the autofocus works very well, and we now have eye detect in it if you're using lenses with extremely shallow depth of field. The image stabilizer is quite effective on it. I do wish they'd give us a fully articulating screen if it's a more video-centric model. Not all of us have a wife who's also a good videographer that can shoot their video for them. You'll need to use an external monitor if you plan to film yourself. If you've already got a lot of Nikon lenses, then this is going to be the best option for you if you want a good video camera for them. But even if you're coming in without any commitments to a system, this is really nice because it has no major drawbacks to it. With the Panasonic S5, sure, you're getting better video quality, but the autofocus can be a real drawback, and the Canon R6 is a fantastic package, but you're still dealing with those overheating issues that don't seem to be a problem here. So Nikon's brought out a very compelling little video package.
You know, I think when Nikon first came out with the Z6 and the Z7, it was a very interesting first attempt into the serious full-frame market. The cameras had a lot going for them. They're beautifully designed, they handled well, they were solid and rugged, you know, good components at the heart of the cameras, but they still left a lot to be desired, and some quirky interface changes. I think it really kind of threw off SLR users that were using 750s and 850s, looking at these cameras and saying, do I really feel it's the right time to push forward into the mirrorless market? And I don't think it worked out very well for Nikon, honestly. So now that we have cameras like the Z6 II, where we have better user interface options and much longer buffer rates and dual card slots, now I think a lot of those people that enjoyed those benefits on SLRs can take a serious look at these cameras and say, okay, maybe it was good to hold on. This is now the right time to jump. And so I think in that regard, Nikon's done a great job. Now, what if you're a new user coming into the full-frame mirrorless market and you want a capable but affordable camera? I absolutely do think that this package would certainly suit your needs. I think that all the changes they've made have really made this far more versatile as a camera that can handle sports action and wildlife, you know, photojournalism, weddings, some more serious stuff. And so in that regard, I think this is a very capable system. The only issue for Nikon is they're facing some stiff competition from Canon with their EOS R6. That's also a very capable, albeit somewhat more expensive platform than this. Otherwise, Sony has the venerable A7 III. It is competitive, but it is an older camera, and this does look very compelling next to that. But if Sony does come out eventually with an A7 version 4, that's again going to really put a lot of pressure on the companies. All in all, though, these improvements I think are important because they were absolutely necessary to make this a compelling and versatile product. Let's answer that final question. Are the dual processors worth it? Is this a big enough change? I think the answer is yes. I don't think a lot of Z6 users are going to necessarily upgrade to this, but this really does give Nikon that future proofing going forward, because having the dual processors means that this camera is now capable of being updated in the future with better firmware updates and staying competitive against Canon and Sony, and I think that's critical to the success of this camera. I hope you guys agree, or at least have more insight into what Nikon's changed here. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do subscribe. Hit that button. It's right there. It's easy. Just click it if you haven't already. We would really appreciate that. Check out DPReview.com. You can see our sample galleries. Thanks so much.